Welcome back to the Women's Basketball Summit, the online platform for players, coaches, and parents. Today, I am super excited to have Megan Kahn, who is the Executive Director of We Coach, because we all know that I am a huge supporter of women need to be coaching women and girls in sports. So Megan, welcome to the call.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled to be here. I greatly support what you're doing. It's much needed to give folks a forum to go online, to get coached up, to get inspired. It's just really fantastic. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure because we were talking before we recorded, and we have so many people in common in the basketball coaching community. Billy Chambers knows her personally and everything. So it's just funny how full circle we get to know each other. So before we start talking about the work you're doing with We Coach, let's talk about your background as an athlete.
Oh my gosh, I think I was the ultimate tomboy. My parents probably cringe when they hear me say that, but it's so true. I just, I grew up outside. I'm an identical twin for those that don't know me, and we just played all day long. I constantly was throwing a football, baseball, a tennis ball, it was horsing the driveway. It was, as we got older, every probably one-on-one game in the driveway ended in a fist fight or an argument. Fueled my ultra competitive nature, but really it just, and as we were talking before we jumped on online here, it's just a different time now than it was when we grew up. We grew up playing multiple sports. I was actually excelled as a swimmer long before I excelled as a basketball player. Basketball was my love and ended up going that direction in college. But it's just, the kids today, the specialization, the pressure to specialize at such a young age that's probably a entirely different conversation for another day. But it's just very different from the time, that I grew up in 70s and 80s. I'll date myself here. And high school in the 90s and college, but loved every second of it.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this. Actually, I was on a call with a gentleman about his daughter, and I was like, just have her go out and play. And I'm like, how you used to play as a kid. Kids don't play anymore, but we'd play tetherball. We'd play like Red Rover. We'd play football with the boys. And kids, most girls couldn't throw a football if you gave them a football now. And I'm always like, I give an athlete a ball. I'm like, can you throw that for me? And you see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. And that's, I think, when we're coaches on this side of it, it's frustrating to watch the specialization, because if I'm a coach and I'm out recruiting and I'm watching, a basketball player, I want to know what she can do on the soccer field. I want to know how she moves on the softball field, age that we're not seeing them fully develop motor skills and other skills that could transition into whatever that love is.
Yeah, perfectly said. So talked about an athlete, and then I know you were a coach for a little bit, an administrator. So talk about that.
Yeah, I hung around the basketball offices all the time when I was a student athlete, and thought I understood what coaches do and did, and they just don't show up for practice, and was convinced I wanted to give that a test drive out of college, get my graduate degree, and did it for 4 years. I did absolutely love it. I just felt administration was better suited for my skill set and really my calling. I wanted to make that impact on a broader scale, and decided then after 4 years in coaching that I was going to transition into administration.
Nice. Talk about some of the administrative work, because I know you've worked on some Final Fours in the past, and just talk about that, because I'm so intrigued by that.
Yeah, I'm going to knock on wood right now. I've been blessed with so many unbelievable opportunities and to work, at a super high level. When I went into administration, I thought in my mind, my dream job was to go work for ACC women's basketball. It was, 05, 06. It was 3 teams in the top 5 with Duke and Maryland and North Carolina. And it was just an exciting time. ACC was the first to be selling out their women's conference tournament at the end of the season, and ended up landing a job there. It was my first job in administration, and hit the gold mine. So ended up there working for a boss, and who became a phenomenal friend and mentor in Bernadette McGlade. And she just, if anyone on this knows Bernie, she's, the no nonsense, demand excellence type person. And it really opened my eyes into the detail and preparation of what goes into running conference events, whether it's a conference tournament, whether it's a SWA and AD meeting, the level of preparation, because you're not just thinking for one school, you're having to now build consensus across 10 or 12 schools. But in turn, what I loved about it was the impact. So outside of being a coach or administrator on a campus, here you were having an impact across an entire huge body of people. It was also an amazing way to, especially as a young administrator, to really grow my network in college athletics from coaches side to administrator side, you know, at the AD and the SWA and the president level, because that's exactly the people I was sitting in the room with. You know, Bernie gave me a ton of responsibility and runway to really grow and lead and make decisions. She's not going to hold your hand, and she's going to demand excellence. And ended up moving on from the ACC to the Atlantic 10 Conference. Actually started on the men's basketball side there, and ran their men's tournament, oversaw men's basketball for my first two and a half, 3 years there, and then transitioned back to the women's basketball side. And just, you know, I love, those are all such great people, and really working at the conference level is just a fantastic experience.
Nice. So after you were administrator, you started your own consulting group. So I don't know if you want to touch on a little bit of your consulting group before you started to be the executive director for WeCoach.
Yeah, you know, my consulting group, it is called consulting, which, you know, if the shoe fits, wear it. So that's all I say about that. You know, it sort of stemmed from, I had a really bad back injury back in 2012 as my last year with the A10, and unfortunately was basically forced to step away and to take some time to get healthy. I was having to, you know, travel all the time. I couldn't bend over and tie my own shoes. And so getting on airplanes and being forced to do, I just needed to step away and take some time to heal. I don't know if I was crazy or naive when I was forced to make that decision, but I had nothing lined up because I knew I needed to take some time to heal. And I was supposed to have back surgery and do the whole gamut. So what came about was I decided I would leverage my network and start my own consulting business and try to drum up a few connections here and there to keep my foot in the door in the industry, because I didn't necessarily know what was going to come next. Fortunately, through my network, I was able to take on the role of tournament manager overseeing game operations for the 2015 Women's Final Four, which is in Tampa, which is where I had relocated to. So pretty quickly after starting my business, I had super relevant work, and ended up being one of the most fantastic career professional experiences that I've ever been involved with, to really, you know, when one of the strengths of my skill set is really event management, and to run an event of that magnitude and scope in my own backyard, which is really the pinnacle event for D1 women's basketball, was awesome. So unfortunately now with my role with WeCoach and giving 80 hours a week to our female coaches, I don't have a lot of time to be doing many things with my consulting business outside of Tampa has the 2019 Women's Final Four again, so reprising my role. But other than that, I'm not actively doing much with my consulting business.
Nice. So now that we have your background, very highly qualified woman to be doing what you're doing, let's talk about WeCoach. So for everyone that's listening that is not familiar with WeCoach, just kind of give an explanation of what it is.
Yeah, and for viewers, you might have heard of the Alliance of Women Coaches. So we just recently completely reimagined the brand about 2 weeks ago from when we're recording this. So it was mid to late August when we announced the name change. So while we have a new look and a new name, completely committed to the same vision and mission, it's really, you know, recruiting, advancing, and retaining women in the coaching profession. There's this statistic that really was the core of the foundation of our organization in 2011. And it's, there's this paradox, right? That when Title IX was founded, I think we would all agree and know that women and opportunities for young girls to participate and play sports has exploded exponentially in terms of scholarships and equity and opportunities to compete in sports that, you know, our parents didn't have. But when that also happened, what happened with the percentage of women coaching women's teams, that number was about 90, or that percentage, I should say, was about 90% in 1972 when Title IX was founded. And that's dwindled to about 42% today. So that statistic, many, and I'm talking a lot of external stakeholders to the game of basketball or people in sports don't recognize that has happened. So really that's, the foundation for our work. We know that women face unique challenges that their male counterparts do not. And so it's like, how do we fill that gap? How do we support and prepare women to feel supported, to stay in the industry? And if their desire is to advance, how do we help them advance? That's the 30,000 foot view of what we do.
Fair enough. Now, why did you guys rebrand? Was there a specific reason for that?
Great question. When it comes down to it, two things really. One, our name was a mouthful before. It was constantly Women's Coaches Alliance, Women's Coaching Alliance. When you have 4 or 5 words in your name and they could go any which combination and still make sense, it's difficult even for our own membership and partners and sponsors and stakeholders. The other thing that was really eye-opening, we hired an outside marketing consultant a couple of years ago to do an assessment. And when isn't it awesome we had a female marketing consultant?
I love it.
When she came to us and said, did you know there's 19 other entities in sports that have Alliance in their name and some form or fashion refer to themselves as the Alliance? And if you're trying to build and grow a brand and there's confusion, that's not one thing that was going to help us. And, we just decided we needed to modernize really what we're doing to make it. We're not anti-male. We need males. We need, male ADs are in the hiring position. We need male head coaches to want to hire female assistants and grow and develop them. So we need males. And we just felt like a new direction and really modernize that and make it more inclusive in terms of not only, transgender coaches, like whoever is out there in our space, like we need to bring these people in. And so really, the goal in time is that sport loses the whole gender identity. You don't say I'm going to my female doctor, my female accountant, but in sports, we still say female coach. So eventually over time, we hope that leadership becomes not identified by gender. And this name really allowed us a lot of room to grow into that as we strive for that moving forward.
No, I never even thought about that. That is so smart. And I love the name. So as the executive director, what are your primary roles, responsibilities with We Coach?
Everything? No.
You work what? Hours a week.
Yeah, exactly. No, you know what? We have myself and 4 full-time staff members now. So growing in terms to really meet the needs of our membership. And, we're most well known for our in-person programming, our longstanding partnership with the NCAA, which is our NCAA Women Coaches Academy. That program was preceded even the foundation of the Alliance. So that program's been in existence since 2003 in that partnership with the NCAA. So this fall we'll actually welcome our 46th class. We have over 1,600 graduates of that program to date. Out of that, there was demand for a next level program for that to come in. And so last fall, we developed Academy 2.0. And that's a small class size mastery learning environment for graduates of the NCAA Women Coach Academy. So those are the premier sports. Those are only available for NCAA coaches, and that's because of that partnership with the NCAA. Outside of that, most of our programs, either online or in person, are open to coaches of all levels. And really, as we desire to grow into the club and the youth space, the high school space, we need to make things available for all coaches and or specify at certain levels for some of those things. So we have one-day regional workshops. I think when this goes live, we'll be just preceding a couple events in LA, happening in LA at the end of the month. And so we do annual events around the country for one day. Those move every single year. We also have a number of what I would call online and digital resources. Our mentor program, for anyone not familiar with that program, we spend a lot of time looking at other mentor programs and what other people in the industry, outside of the industry, were doing for females, and recognizing we know that females are leaving the profession between 7 and 10 years into their career. There's a number of reasons why they're leaving, but we know it's that 7 to 10 year mark. And so we took that level of experience and we made that person really that connector in our mentor program. Our mentor program is a trio. So it's a senior level experience, this mid-level experience, and then the rookie, right? And so that middle person is a mentor to people with 5 years or less experience, but they're also a mentee to this senior level either coach. Some of them are retired coaches, some of them are longtime administrators, whoever we feel qualified to really be in that senior level mentor role. So that was really the basis for our mentor program. It is super unique hybrid model, and we got a ton of great feedback. So we're in year 2 of that mentor program now.
Nice. So obviously this is the Women's Basketball Summit. Do you know the statistics for women that are coaches in basketball?
Basketball, basketball, with it being the most premier sport for women, is doing okay. Especially even if you look at what Danielle Donahue and WBCA, Danielle's a good friend and a colleague of mine, and I give her and her team kudos for supporting their coaches, male and female. But it's probably also one of the easier sports for former players to get their foot in the door. There's a lot of opportunities. The staffs are bigger than almost any other college sport when we look at, and even, dobos and video coordinators and opportunities to still stay around the game are there for them. And, really our partnership with the WBCA, which is in place for the So You Want to Be a Coach program, that's exactly that. That's trying to give former players, former college athletes who want to consider a career in coaching and help them get their foot in the door. It's competitive. Males want those jobs. Females want those jobs. There's limited positions, so it's very competitive. Basketball is one of the better sports when you look at overall, 25 to 30 different sports that we serve.
So I know you talked about this a little while ago about We Coach and kind of why it was branded, because we need to identify, kind of with every population. With basketball, we doing a good job with like diversity? Are there transgender coaches? Just the diversity, how are we doing there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Basketball is one of the worst in terms of, and maybe because it's most in the public eye, in terms of the ability for male or female coaches to really live authentically, and the LGBT and negative recruiting that comes with that. There's some people doing great work in the space. On the male or female side, diversity across the board is awful for women of color, men of color. I think women of color only hold 14% of all head coach positions. So that number's off. We all have a lot of work to do. And I say we all, meaning collectively, like no one organization. I really feel no one, or not even We Coach, we're not going to change the landscape alone. We need to partner with other great people doing great work in the space if we really want to move this needle.
Yeah, I kind of threw that question at you. I was just curious because I know after we talked about this when we first spoke about a month or two ago, after the NCAA tournament and the University of Buffalo was defeated by South Carolina, Coach Jack, had an interview where they were talking about diversity and Black coaches, and she had a wonderful interview. I mean, if no one's heard it, they should listen to it. And that's kind of where that question stemmed from. But also in the previous summits, I have had transgenders on, and I think it's important that, again, we have an open mind to all coaches out there and who we're hiring.
Mm-hmm. And, it's the administrators that have the problem. It's not the student athletes. 9 times out of 10, it's the administrators. And so, it's really unfortunate. And maybe, basketball is the most in the public eye of nearly any sport. And they're also, I find in our work, probably the most closeted sport. Soccer and softball and all these other sports are so open and out, and people living their lifestyles. And, there's just so many things going on, even with athletic department cultures and environments they're building, trying to be more inclusive. But it's, you really got to walk the talk. LGBT Sports Safe and what Nevin Capel and Eric are doing, their work is great. And Kirk Walker who's assistant softball coach at UCLA, but the work that he's doing on diversity and inclusion and really giving folks a safe space. That's why those partnerships for us are so important, because we know this is a this is a problem. We know this is an area where coaches aren't necessarily feeling supported either on campus or through their own sport association. So this is a gap we can help fill.
Yeah, it's, I never thought about what you just said, where you said like it's the administration. And this is my opinion. If you look at a lot of the administrations, I'd say a lot of the ADs they're older. They're not the younger generation where kids nowadays, doesn't matter like who you are, who you want to date, whatever you want to be identified. They don't care because they're so used to it. But the older administration, it's, we need to educate them. We need to open their eyes because, 30 years ago, this was never a discussion.
Yep. It's, boosters sometimes are involved and could be very vocal, and dollars and voices sometimes, matter. And it's about education and the more, at the grassroots level, it's really getting athletic departments and those in the leadership positions on board and understanding why this is critical and important.
Yeah, it's about educating, but I also think it's about starting a conversation. Yep. And if we can start having this conversation, hopefully we can educate people and just kind of go from there. So I feel like you and I could ramble about this topic forever. But changing gears a little bit, why do you think it's important that women are coaching other women?
And I go back to, I really go back to this. If she can see her, she can be here. So when we know I'm just astounded when we go to events and I have coaches tell me they have only been coached by a man. They never had a female coach growing up, so they don't know any better. But what's happening is as we're starting to lose more females in the profession, whether at the youth T-ball level or the college level, our young women, and these are future leaders of America, they're missing out on having strong female role models in their lives. And so, we would be limiting ourselves if we wanted, to only go work for a male boss in the corporate world. So it's important for young girls and boys really to see women being successful, to respect them as knowledgeable about sports, to respect them in leadership positions. It's got to start at the grassroots level. It's a whole systemic and organizational and cultural change. But, as I said earlier, we don't say I'm going to my female doctor or my female accountant. And really, my dream world would be one where we're not identifying, Becky Hammon it's not a big deal for her to be a female coach in the NBA, or, that those gender identifiers really go away, and leadership is leadership and coaching is coaching. And so really we need young women, young girls, young boys to understand, and the more they see it, the more accepting it becomes.
Yeah. I think if we can get, a women coach in the NBA, that would be amazing. A woman GM would be amazing. Cause then you just kind of just get used to the idea and then you think nothing of it. But because it's never happened really, it's like people just don't think about it.
Yep. It's so true.
So, what you keep saying that women leave coaching, what are I'm curious, what are like the top 2 or 3 reasons why women leave coaching?
Top 2 or 3. So one, women, as we know, are considered primary caregivers. So anyone that wants to have a family, is a mother, feels a lot of pressure. As we know, coaching's 24/7, 365. So having to balance that, and if they're not in a academic and athletic environment that supports that helps with childcare, that lets them, bring family on road trips, that helps them cover the cost of bringing them and being inclusive, that's really hard if they don't have also a supportive environment at home, and a husband or a wife or a partner that really is meeting them and not making them bear so many of the home and caregiver, primary caregiver, child raiser at home. We know gender bias exists. There's research out there that says not only in the hiring process, so not only are women going into an interview process with gender bias, but also on how performance is judged, right? So male coaches get away with things that female coaches are not getting away with. They're harshly judged in a gender bias way. We know there's lower pay, there's non-supportive work environments, even in terms of what we just talked about. If you're not able to live your true authentic self and feel supported every day in your work environment, that becomes a challenge. So I would say those are some of the top reasons.
No, I appreciate you for saying that. Is there a huge percentage of like a pay gap from like, we'll just use basketball as an example, like male coaches to female coaches with a pay gap in what they're getting paid?
Yeah, Title IX exists, but we also know pay inequities still exist. So, and there's a number of reasons for that, and not one that I necessarily see closing quickly. But look at what, I think it was just surfing just announced that their prize money is going to be equal for their female surfers as it is for their male surfers. So, this is a movement, right? This is a women's movement. And so I am encouraged that the landscape will change.
Nice. So just to wrap up the call, because I feel like you and I could talk for an hour and 90 minutes, but I don't think anyone would eventually listen to us. What can we, as people that are listening, and we fully support, women coaching women, what can we do to help you with We Coach? Like, what can people do to help you?
You know what? Women have to come together. We have to be strong women. We have to support each other. Sometimes, women feel like there's such limited opportunities to advance or go for a job, and we become competitive for these jobs instead of looking at the big picture and realizing that I think when one woman wins, we all win. And so we have to be supportive. We have to look out for each other. We have to recommend each other for jobs. Individually, we have to go for it, right? A man looks at a job opening and he's like, man, I got two of the qualifications. I'm going for it. Women look at it and go, I don't have to. I'm not putting my name in the hat. So, we have to get out of our own way sometimes and really just lay it on the line and be prepared, right? If we know an AD and AD say they're going to hire the best coach for the job, they can hide behind that. Well, our responsibility is to make sure those women are prepared for that. When they go into the job interview, they're confident, they're prepared, they have their materials ready and right, and being able to then put them into environments where they can succeed.
Nice. And then for everyone listening, if they want to find out more about the work you're doing, website, social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, social media. We're active on social media, always putting out what events we have going on online or in person. So Twitter handle is at We Coach Sports. Same for Instagram, or We Coach on Twitter, We Coach Sports on Instagram. Our new website URL is wecoachsports.org. If anyone wants to contact me or my team personally, feel free to reach out. We're super open to ideas. We're working on a new strategic plan, getting ready to roll out a ton of new digital resources to really meet coaches where they are. That doesn't require, kind of like what you're doing, right? It doesn't require them to travel and the cost prohibitive nature that sometimes in-person programming is. So super excited to be here, Jen. Thanks so much for what you're doing.
I'm super excited, and I'm hoping you're going to have something in the Boston area in the near future. Or if not, I'm hoping to catch you at the Final Four in April.
Yeah, I would love it.
All right,
come on,
Megan.
Boston. Let's get some Boston synergy going.
It was great chatting with you, and like I said, I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Jen.